Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live's Falcons vs. Bears Week 11 post-game show. I am your host, Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin on the Twitters as long as it exists. Also joined by my co-host, Alan Strk. He is at Alan Strk on the aforementioned Twitters for as long as it exists. Alan, how are you doing today?
Oh man, you just reminded me about Twitter potentially non-existing. Ah man. Imagine just watching Falcon games and not being able to tweet. Like,
I don't know
oh
what I
man.
do. Yeah, I need to share the pain with someone. That's the only thing that gets me through these days. So,
We might have to do like live watch parties, like make
yeah.
it somewhat enjoyable
Yeah,
because
I would have to start because I know fans have asked about potentially doing play-by-play during the games, and like if Twitter went away, then I would definitely do it because I don't know that I could like
yeah.
force myself to watch the game otherwise. So on some of these weeks, some weeks it's actually fun. Like this week, I think after the first half was pretty good. There were definitely some moments in the first half as well, but an overall good game for the Falcons with some surprising turns of events, including Cordarrelle Patterson, of course, getting his NFL record ninth kickoff return touchdown en route to a 27-24 Falcons victory. That was a key play in the game, sort of what started to turn things around after the Falcons fell behind 17-7 in the second quarter. Patterson's kickoff return touchdown gave this team life, and they were able to tie it up going into the half. And the Falcons never looked back from that point. The Bears did manage to rally and tie it up in the fourth quarter, but the Falcons put on a very strong closing drive to give the Bears less than 2 minutes to go. Younghoe Koo nailed a 53-yard field goal to give the Falcons a 27-24 lead, which, yes, if you listen to the game preview show, you know that is the exact score that I predicted.
There
So
we go.
Nostradamus over here.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I've nailed any other score predictions this year, but I'm going to hold on to this one for a long time for sure.
As you should.
Yes, you got to. These are very hard to do. Okay, like
It is
it's
absolutely.
completely a random guess, but at least we like to pretend that we are just experts. But yeah, I mean, I think it was a logical score prediction, so clearly it was.
Hold on.
But the Falcons do get the dub. They sack Justin Fields four times, five times. One of the best pass rush performances of the season, and they get that dub to get to 5-6. So Alan, where do you want to start? We got a lot to cover.
I know we like to criticize teams for playing not to lose, but this was the game where it was beneficial to play not to lose. So I do
Yeah,
think the Bears did things. I thought they called a pretty good game offensively, but the last drive,
the
good
last
lord,
drive. Yeah.
it was clear Justin Fields was 100%. You're running keepers with him. In the second down, he's running right into like the interior line. It was just baffling. But then there was also times where Fields just, for whatever reason, didn't want to identify screens. He just went the other way and ran to pressure. So I just thought the Bears kind of beat themselves. But credit to the Falcons, the defense stayed disciplined. We'll go into this game. I did see like a history of Dean Pease for I don't know whatever reason. He tends to do good against running quarterbacks. He has like a high success rate, and I do think, all right, I know the Bears kind of did some damage on the ground, but in the passing game wise, other than a few slip-ups by Darren Hall, one he got away with,
Yeah.
which could have been really bad. But besides that, I thought the secondary played well, and the Falcons they played fundamental football. And outside of a few bad fumbles, they played pretty much not to lose, and they were the rightful team that won. I thought they deserved it in all phases of the game. Yes, we can say special teams because boy, what a moment that was.
Yeah.
And of course, Younghoe Koo hitting the field goal.
Yep.
So
Yep.
the Falcons did enough in all three phases. I know it sounds a bit generic to say, but they were rightfully won the game, and that's what you have to do sometimes when you're in a funk and you're playing a team that's not very good.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of crazy how, I mean, you definitely have to give them props for bouncing back. This team fumbled it away twice in the first half, and it was...
We mentioned two very bad fumbles, too.
Yeah,
Look, Cordarrelle
yeah.
Patterson, Avery Williams, he's had a great season. But,
Yeah.
man, ball protection just...
Yeah,
it's got to be better.
Yeah, so it's like after that, it was just like, man, that was tough to watch, and you sort of... I mean, I certainly felt like they were going to piss this game away because it was 17-7 at that point, and it's like, man, they can't hold on to the football. This is going to get really dark. To their credit, the Falcons did manage to hold on to the football after that point. They did enough on offense to get it done. It certainly wasn't a tremendous day offensively in terms of production, but 27 points, 7 of those coming from special teams. That's that's good. You take that, considering this team was scoring in the teens the last several weeks. You definitely take any points you can get, and getting that special teams touchdown was big. I think we have to start with Cordarrelle Patterson here, getting that ninth kickoff return touchdown to take the lead all time in the NFL. Just a really cool moment. I love seeing that. I love that he was able to do that. And it was interesting because I think overall on kickoff returns this year, he's been like sort of okay, but not great. I think Avery Williams, when he was kicking off, when he was doing the returns in relief of Patterson, was actually playing better. But then Patterson shows you that, of course, he's just so good at it. Like he doesn't necessarily need a big crease or anything crazy to go right. He just hits that hole and he gets going, and he's really hard to bring down. And just so happy for him. How did you feel seeing Cordarrelle Patterson finally get the record?
Oh man, just once he sees that crease, like you said, because Cordarrelle Patterson always has that vision, and it was so traditional of him, like to do it over 100 yards. Like we've seen in the past, whether it be on the Vikings or the Bears or the Raiders. I'm not sure if he did on the Patriots necessarily, but like over 100 yards, like Cordarrelle Patterson takes. So like once he takes it out of the end zone, usually with returns, like don't take it out of the end zone. But Cordarrelle Patterson's just like, all right, you clearly deserve the right, because you could do pretty much anything with the ball in your hands once you find that crease. So it's just a special moment. Brought back flashbacks to Devin Hester's return against Tampa Bay. Yes, I know that was a punt return. Yes, I know that was a blowout. Probably one of the most hilarious Thursday night games, if you recall. But still, like, you don't get to see special teams touchdowns often, so you have to fully embrace them. And man, just what a moment for a player that, I call him the people's champ. Who doesn't love Cordarrelle Patterson? And it's literally the only thing he hasn't done in Atlanta as a player. Like, he's literally done it all at this point. So for him to finally have that moment in a big spot where the team was stumbling a bit in a pretty much must-win scenario, it's completely turned the game around. And that's what we know Cordarrelle Patterson for, because he last year pretty much won the Falcons a couple games. So I don't think he quite dominated like he did last year, but for him to like truly make a difference, it's wonderful to see. And it is. I think the Seattle game was the only other time this year I thought he really made a massive difference in the game they won. So for him to get another one, there's bullet. You love to see it.
Yeah, just great to see. Obviously, from the perspective of the record, and he's punching his ticket to a gold jacket with that return. You love it for him. It's just such a fun player. You could tell he's still sort of working his way back on the ground, and just getting comfortable with it, but still effective. 10 carries for 52 yards out there.
Big fourth down conversion.
Yep. Huge. After they just screwed him over with that. I hate that play so much, by the way. That 3rd and 1 where the running back's like 8 yards deep, and it's just like, what are you doing? Like, what? Why? Like, why are we doing this? Like, you're just asking for trouble when you play that, and it's just a bizarre play to me. They seem to love to run it, so I guess whatever. But it didn't matter because Patterson got it on 4th and 2, thankfully. But very frustrating play. And then we also saw, sticking with the run game, Tyler Algier had a great game on the ground. Just 8 carries, but 55 yards for 6.9 yards per tote. And then surprisingly, Marcus Mariota leading the way with 13 carries for a pitiful 1.9 yards per attempt. He did get the rushing touchdown, which was nice, but for whatever reason, he has ceased to be an effective runner. I think there were 3 or 4 times in this game where he had a clear lane to just go forward and fall forward for 3 or 4 yards, and he just went sideways and got nothing, and it was very frustrating to watch.
Yeah, the Parker Hesse play in particular will be ingrained in my mind. I think in everyone's mind, just because he had at least 10 yards there. Parker Hesse did his job, and it just keeps going laterally. There was one scramble, I think it was the second quarter, where if he went more up more just vertical, like he could have got 5-6 yards, but he tries to go lateral, he tries to evade the contact, and Mario is just not that great of an athlete to do it. He can do it in some moments, but against a defensive back more times than not, I'm going to bet on defensive back to make the open field tackle. So it's just plays that could have gone for 4 or 5, 8 to 10 yards. He makes the wrong decision, ends up just being 1 or 2 yards. So yeah, outside the touchdown, I thought it was a really brutal day as a runner for Mariota. Not all that much better as a passer either.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been effective as a runner this year, certainly. The Bears just covered it up really well, and I think Mariota passed up on some good plays, so we'll see if he can bounce back there. That that's something that he needs to be better at going forward. Certainly, as a passer, it was fine. I mean, overall, it
London touchdown was nice.
yes, that's the thing with Mariota. There's a couple of passes every game where you're like, wow, that was a great throw, and he's certainly capable of those great throws. But the inconsistency is what's really the problem with Mariota, and there were just a lot of off-target passes, poor accuracy. Some things weren't necessarily his fault, but I think the pass protection actually held up well today, and he was still pretty mediocre as a passer, I would say, in this one. He had some flash plays and he had some bad ones, but this was certainly not one of his poor games as a passer. I think it was fine.
I got a quick question for you. Do you think, because you saw at the end of the second quarter, you think going more up tempo would be beneficial for him? Because he did look more comfortable than I've seen him in weeks going up tempo. Like, I thought he orchestrated a pretty good drive at the end to get the field goal.
Yeah, I think I like. I mean, I like it in the up tempo. I think he functions better there. I think that it's just. I think overall, like he actually does play well. I think when it's quicker, like I think you see that in his play in chaotic situations where there's poor snaps or where there's guys in his face. I think a lot of times he does a really good job navigating that pressure and moving around. I think it's just from the pocket, it's not good for him. Like, he's just not a pocket passer. He's not comfortable there at all. The Falcons, I think, to their credit, have done a good job of getting him on the move for a lot of these throws, and I think he's been a lot better there. But yeah, I mean, I think the Falcons need him to be a more effective runner, and we need the accuracy to be more consistent. But I mean, I think as long as he continues to, if he plays at this level, which is solid as a passer, and then improves the rushing numbers, it's this team is mostly fine on offense. It's just when they go up against good defenses, the passing game has to be better because the Falcons can't find as much success on the ground. And I think that's where you're going to have issues with Mariota. That's what we saw against the Panthers. You know, when the Panthers were plugging up the run, the passing game couldn't do a damn thing. So I think that, this is sort of what you're hoping for from Mariota, is about this level of play. And I think he's fine when he can play like this. But we've seen, before this we saw 2 games where it wasn't fine. So it's very inconsistent. But look, I mean, the Falcons have to find ways to win, and right now they're able to do it about half the time with Mariota. Maybe they've got 2 more games here that they really have to win to stay in it. And if Mariota leads them to victories, then he'll stay on the field. And if he does not, then he'll probably be benched at some point. So
it's 2 things I want to say in Mario's defense. One, it was very unfortunate Kyle Pitts got injured, because I thought they were in sync on a couple of those plays, and that Kyle Pitts should have had a bigger game if he didn't get injured. But it was just good to see them in rhythm, because, oh man, the last 2 games, particularly the Carolina game, was just ugly. So the fact that they seem to be, at a solid rapport was encouraging to see. And oh man, and I've been calling all year for him to get more targets. Big moment. Olamide Zaccheaus, I don't know why he did not turn his head around, because that was actually a really good throw by Mariota.
That was a good throw. Yeah.
So I think if Zaccheaus turns his head around, makes that play, the stat sheet looks a lot better.
It does. And like, I think the stats with Mariota rarely tell the story. I think for the most part he's played efficiently, and I think for the most part it's not bad on a down-to-down basis. But the problem with Mariota is always the consistency, and it's like, you look at the last 2 games, everyone was calling for Mariota's head because the passing game was so poor. This game, it's back to being efficient but low volume, and that's the way that they need things to go to win games. And it's just a frustrating experience for us to be like, every week now the passing game is either good or bad. And I mean, I think Mariota certainly did enough here to hold on to his job going forward, probably through the bye. But I mean, they just can't afford to lose any more games before the bye. Like, they have to probably go into the bye with a winning record. We've said this a lot of times, and they've got a tough game coming up next week against the Commanders, who have certainly
resurgent Commanders.
Yeah, yes, they look a lot better than they did early in the season. So that's not a pushover game, and the Falcons have to find a way to win that one.
And the Falcons have a lot of horrors from playing Taylor Heineke last year. Like, to me, if there's ever I could think of a Taylor Heineke game, that game last year against the Falcons was like your classic Tyler Heineke game. But Taylor Heineke, excuse me. I don't know why I'm calling it Tyler. My apologies. But that was like one. Like, if you want to think of like all-time Falcon collapses, that's one of the ones that just come to my mind just because, oh man, they played pretty much. I know I've been talking about playing not to lose, but that was not a game to
Yeah.
play not to lose, and they played not to lose, and oh man, it came back on. That was like peak Cordarrelle Patterson, from what I recall.
Yeah, yeah. That was a really frustrating one. So hopefully that that does not happen, because I think that, look, I mean, the Commanders beat the Eagles in an impressive, very impressive game. The Eagles obviously look to be struggling now, which is pretty crazy. They did manage to barely hold on to beat the Colts today. So good for them, but they definitely got their asses kicked by the Commanders. So that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, the Commanders, they beat the Texans today. So let's not, we're not necessarily crowning them as like this really great team, but they are 6-5 and certainly not a pushover. So that's going to be definitely a game that the Falcons need to find a way to win if they want to keep this going.
I got an offensive line question for you. How do you feel about Chuma Edoga, his performance? I thought he struggled early on, but it seemed he played better in the second half.
Yeah, I didn't notice him too much after the first half. So that's probably a good thing. I didn't like what I saw at all in the first half, but when I don't notice you while watching the game, that's probably a good sign for the offensive line. So I think that he was okay. Obviously, we're talking about like our third string like left guard at this point. So if you can get okay out of that player, that's probably pretty good. So
I mean, hey, Jalen Mayfield's off IR.
He's coming back.
I don't know if you know this. There's very concerned. At one point, I was just like, man, Chuma Edoga is playing like Jalen Mayfield's gonna probably get in there at some point.
I saw that.
I don't know why anyone wants to see that. So I do think, obviously, you gotta watch the tape, but the Falcons had decent amount of success running to left in the second half. So I like to think that he played a role in that. Like the big Algier run to pretty much steal the game. That came from the left, and I think Patterson had a couple nice runs left. So hopefully, he played a role in that, because they need stability at left guard. It just
they do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they finally got it with Wilkinson, who I think had been playing like, oh, this is a guy you probably extend like at this point. So
is he back after the bye week, or is he done for the year?
They haven't said. I think that it is. I mean, they never say, but they didn't say it was season ending, Wilkinson. Right. So I assume that he will be back at some point, but I don't know when. And
Hayward's got to be back at some point.
Yep. So. He had surgery, so that sounds like it might be longer term, but so we'll see. I mean, I think if the Falcons stay in it, they keep winning, they go into the bye with that winning record, they'll probably be looking to bring back Casey Hayward. If they fall out of contention, it's like, okay, just rest, no problem. But we get to Guy Fieri, a.k.a. Solaire, with the tip here. He says, do not be fooled. This isn't a playoff team. We don't belong in this fight. Where we do belong is in the draft takes race. Arthur Smith must do the right thing. Bench Mariota and go to Felipe Franks instead. That way we can get the spiciest draft take. No, this is clearly a joke. It's clearly a joke.
Man. Yeah, I was like, look, man, for content purposes, we're going to milk this as much as possible.
No, but yeah, the Felipe Franks thing, I think he was definitely being facetious. But look, that would give us very spicy draft takes, certainly. But Mariota, he did what he needed to do today. He had to lead this team to a victory and stabilize his passing, and he did. So he's got to keep doing that. But he did a good job today. Props to him, keeping this on schedule, and keeping the Falcons in contention in this NFC South race where, I mean, just numerically speaking, they're in it. They need the Bucs to probably lose a game or two here or there. I mean, the Bucs don't necessarly have the easiest schedule going forward. It's harder.
I feel like the Bucs have played a lot of hard teams.
Yeah, so I don't know what to expect from this Bucs team. They've won 2 in a row, but it was against the Rams that they barely beat, and that Rams team is bad at this point, like really bad. And then they
still got to play the Bengals, correct?
Yes, so they're going to play the Browns after. They're going to play the Browns next week. Then they're going to play the Saints. And then they have to play the 49ers and the Bengals. So,
okay, they got some contenders.
Yeah, so they do. Yeah. There's a couple tough games in there for them that they could certainly lose. But I think the Falcons have to be tied with the Buccaneers going into Week 17, or there's no chance, because almost certainly the Bucs will have a better divisional record. So the Falcons can't depend on just winning that last week to tie it, because I think the Bucs are at 2-1 in the division or something like that. So at that point,
I mean, they have lost to the Panthers. Funny enough.
well, I think you're right. Let's see here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bucks lost to the Panthers. So.
yeah, so they're 2-1. They beat the Saints, they beat the Falcons, and they lost to the Panthers. So they've got several division games left, right? They got to play the Saints again. They got to play the Panthers, and then they got to play the Falcons. The Falcons obviously control their destiny in that game, but the Bucs, if they win one more game, then the Falcons can't necessarily depend on having a better divisional record than them. So, very dicey situation. And that means the Falcons, have to pull it together and keep winning, keeping pace with the Bucs. But I think if the Bucs, don't lose, obviously they just win outright. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean the Falcons have to be really, really careful about not losing any games going forward.
Let's get to the defense. So
Yeah.
what was your overall thoughts on their performance?
I mean, the tackling is still just really, really difficult to
I
to
totally
watch.
agree with
Yeah.
you, but this is a team that is known for breaking tackles. Like, man, I think
Yes.
David Montgomery is one of the more underappreciated running backs. This guy is a yards after contact machine, and we know how slippery Fields is. So I could see why in this matchup it would be hard, but there were moments like Rashawn Evans went too high on the backup running back. It should have been like a 3-yard gain instead went to like an 8-yard gain. So it's fundamental things like that are frustrating. I agree.
Yeah, and it's tough to watch, but I think overall, you look at the stats, and I think the Falcons did a pretty good job. I mean, this is the NFL's #1 rushing attack. The Falcons didn't allow that big. I mean, I think it was like 160 rushing yards, which is low for the Bears, funny enough. I think they had been over 225 rushing yards in 3 of the last 4 games or something like that. So, so that was good. I mean, overall, they held the Bears to just 288 yards, which is also good, right? If not for those turnovers that the Falcons gave the Bears a short field twice, this is probably a much more lopsided score. But, I think the defense did a good job, and they got the 4 sacks. That's great. That's the tied their best output of the season. You love to see Arnold Ebiketie. He was so close multiple times, and Justin Fields, like you said, extremely difficult to bring down. This is not just a Falcons problem, but Ebiketie was close to like 3 sacks, only ended up getting the 1. The Falcons
I'd say same for Lorenzo Carter.
Yeah, and Carter got his as well. So definitely a better day by the pass rush. This is like maybe the worst pass protecting offensive line in football. Like I think the Bears have given up the most sacks of any team. So take that for what it is, but at least they could get sacks against the worst pass protecting line in football. So there's that.
We're setting bars, folks.
It's very low bar, but and yeah.
Yeah, I think DPs deserves a lot of credit because I think 2 of the 4 sacks we saw Jarrett take up space, the Lorenzo Carter twist behind him, get a sack. Ebiketie came on delays, so I think there were some slick moves there by DPs to create extra pressure to at least frustrate Fields because as a runner, Fields has success, but in the pocket, like he definitely got rattled at some points. And Michael Walker had a couple of bat downs. Great, Jarrett did his thing. Dual Anderson, who we got to talk about Dual Anderson. I thought this was his best game as a Falcon. But
Yeah, I liked it. I liked what we saw, and I think he had to play quite a bit more after Taquan Graham left with an injury. He got carted off. That doesn't seem good at all, certainly. But yeah, I mean, I think Abdullah Anderson has been more than earning his keep, and you love to see a guy come in and play. He got the sack. He had 3 tackles as well as an assist. So, it's good. Like, he's not a traditional nose tackle, certainly. They don't really have one other than Timmy Horn, who I think has been not good. But they're playing Abdullah Anderson as the nose tackle, and he's making it work a lot of the time. And, I like it. I think he's been more than you could have hoped for, and I think is somebody you could potentially rely on as a rotational guy going forward. I mean, he's doing things out there, so good on him.
Yeah, he uses his hands real well. There was a couple of close-ups on just a couple of his run stops. I thought this guy was just a plugger who just a body. No, man, he knows how to use his hands. So major kudos to him. He's definitely been one of the more refreshing players to watch his defense. Because I just thought he was a body. Like, okay, he'll play 15 snaps, but no, he's getting them real quality snaps, and this is what this coaching staff needs because they clearly just did not want to get a veteran inside. So it's like, all right, we're just going to see what we can work with. And major credit to him. I thought Hibb, Lorenzo Carter, Gray Jarrett, probably the best defensive lineman in the game. I thought, and Lorenzo Carter, he should have a lot more plays, but still, I just thought his athleticism made a big difference in giving Fields problems.
Yeah, and I think the Falcons kept trying to like do like the right thing, like technically, and like break down for these tackles on Fields. And the broadcast pointed it out a lot. It's like, no, with like a guy like Fields, you just have to go full blast and get hands on him, even if you miss the tackle. Like you got to stop him in his tracks and slow him down. You can't let him make a move on you. And sometimes they did that. And, yeah. Sometimes they did, but a lot of times they didn't. And I think it's really hard to fight your training, right? You're trained to stop, break down, and go make a sound tackle. There's just certain players like Justin Fields and some others. It's like you can't stop your feet. Like you have to just charge in there and get a hand on him or slow him down or stop him and let your backup get in there and make the play. But that was tough to watch. But I think overall, like, I mean, they gave up a lot of rushing yards like on the ground. But when you consider the opponent, it's definitely a good, like to limit them to that is good. And, just 288 total yards is great. 4 sacks. You had the pick there by Jalen Hawkins to end the game. Nice play. They did what they needed to do. And I feel like the defense has been doing this for the past couple weeks, that they certainly weren't like playing great football or good football or whatever, but they were like doing enough that it's like the offense should be able to win this game. And I think that's a big change from last year in particular, where it was like for big swaths of the season, it was like, okay, this defense like is just, this team can't win with this defense playing like this. And then this year, I think for the most part, maybe outside of the Bengals game, and even that, I think they probably played well enough for the offense to have a chance if the offense could have come to life a little bit better. They've done enough to keep the team in contention. So I think they deserve some props for that. But man, it's you can tell the talent deficit out there. Like they're just having to overcome it every single week, particularly on the defensive line. And I think they have like a group of guys that are like, solid. Like, and I think that's a big improvement from last year, where it was like Dante Fowler, who we know is maybe just like slightly above average, and like nothing. And so now at least I think they have like, especially at edge, other than Ogundeji, who I think has been just super disappointing. You got Carter and you got Ebiketie and you got Malone, who I think are all showing that these are like pieces that you can rely on going forward in the edge room. And that's like, they're still missing that blue chip edge rusher that they really need. And I would say like probably more than half the teams in the NFL are looking for that player still, but you're not as far as you were last year, where it was like, we don't have anything here at all. We have to completely redo this whole run. And this year, I think it's like you've seen enough from Ebiketie to think that this is your number 2 edge rusher long term. Like this is a guy you can rely on. You've got Lorenzo Carter, who I think is just a really good role player. Like I think he's a unique skill set, and he's certainly capable of generating some pressure. I think he's probably best as like a rotational guy and not your like every down starter. But like we saw it, like his coverage is pretty good, especially for an edge rusher. He's really athletic. He can match up on some of these quick-footed quarterbacks, but he's not like an elite pass rusher, but he does enough things well that it's like he's a good piece to have.
I felt so bad for him on that big play to Montgomery. Like he did his job, spot dropping, and then he has to go run like 20 yards downfield, and he had good coverage, but Fields.
Yeah, that was a great pass. Just terrific pass.
Throwing credit to Montgomery for the solid catch. Like just one of those moments. But yeah, I think it just, in these types of matchups, you really need his athleticism, because like, especially against running quarterbacks, because he could set the edge, but also he has the discipline and the athleticism where if they're going to run zone read, he's not going to get caught out. Like he'll maintain his positioning, and he could potentially not necessarily always get the stop, but at least to force the quarterback to go more laterally and hopefully get support. But I think these are the types of games you want him to shine, and he definitely did it. And kudos to the safeties, because I think one of the biggest, not to be down on the defense, but I thought they wasted a couple opportunities against Carolina. Darren Hall dropped the interception in the end zone, which could have probably prevented at least 3 points. Richie Grant, 22-16, third down. He makes that play, puts the Falcons in position to score with less than 2 minutes left. So I think, especially in these games where you're going against quarterbacks that aren't particularly accurate, you have to capitalize on those mistakes. And it was great today. They finally did it. And they also did against the Chargers on the Josh Palmer mistake. So it's just those types of moments you hope they can do. Because look, they're going to get opportunities against Heineke and Pickett. So gotta.
They have to capitalize. Yeah,
exactly, because they're just not good enough to get consistent stops every drive. So
Yeah,
these are the moments.
yeah, and to their credit, I think in a lot of games they really have done a good job of that. Against the Panthers, it was egregious. I think there was 3 drop picks against the Panthers, and it's like you just can't have that. Like you're not going
I
to.
know
get a
Mother
better
Nature
chance.
was bad, but
yes, but I mean the balls hit him in the hands, so like
Sure.
I don't blame Mother Nature for that. I blame that's why
Okay.
they're playing defense. Let's be honest. So
what was the third one? You said it was the third one. I'm trying to remember.
against the Panthers, I know there was like Darren Halls and Richie Grants, and there was one more. It might have been a linebacker that it was thrown into their hands. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah. By the way, I want to mention Troy Anderson.
Yeah,
Showing some plays today.
he's just so athletic. I feel like you just have to have that man out there, and it's like, look, like it's not going to always be pretty. He's not always going to take the right angle, but like he doesn't even have to because he's so fast. Like he's fast. He was faster than Justin Fields. He's like he ran him down. So,
Yeah, I went on passing downs because they just have him and Walker. Because obviously they want Rashawn Evans or rushing downs, understandably so, because he is a thumper. But on passing downs, like I know Rashawn Evans is just that veteran presence that Dean Pease just completely trusts, but there's limitations to his game. So I'm wondering, can you at least try out Walker and Anderson together? What would it lead to?
yeah, it's just you definitely think like the linebackers. Like I think Rashawn Evans is like a perfectly good like rotational guy.
Agreed.
I sort of feel that way about Michael Walker too, unfortunately.
Yeah,
and it's
he
just
like, just has not taken the next step.
So I think they're probably looking for another starter at linebacker. The good news is not that expensive to get a good veteran linebacker. If you're looking for like a premium one, that's another story. But I don't think you need a premium one. I think you're just looking for a solid one. It's also a position you can find good players in the draft, like on day 2 and day 3, with regularity. So that's certainly someplace that all linebackers. Like once again, going to be a position that we're looking at. Trenton Simpson, the Clemson linebacker, seems to be a popular pick for the Falcons. I would just be upset if they took a linebacker in the first round. It's just like, at a certain point, you have to take freaking trench players in the first round. Like, at a certain point, you have to do it. Like, I mean, you can't just keep kicking it down the road. So
I'd say, Todd, you don't want to base your draft pick on purely position. So you just got to assess what the talent's there. I get what you mean. Absolutely. But
yeah,
I think the Falcons are in a position where I'm not saying they got to go BPA, but defensively, if you see a game-changing talent that isn't a corner, because I don't think they should probably take a corner in the first round. But besides that,
see, I would be more open to corner actually.
Okay, elaborate. How come?
I think Darren Hall playing better has maybe cooled it a little bit, but I think like Casey Hayward's probably here for one more year, and then he's going to be like 34, 35. So he's not going to be playing much longer. I think
on a 2-year deal, I believe.
Yes, exactly. So AJ Terrell is good, but maybe this is another reason why it's not a first round pick, but I do think like where they're probably picking in that 10 to 20 range, like you could have your choice of a top corner, and I think we've seen corners lately come in and make a big impact. You talk about Sauce Gardner and J.C. Horn for the Panthers, and I think the Falcons could benefit from another really good corner on the outside, but it could also be a situation where like maybe you do that on day 2 because you have Hayward for another year. You can take a swing at a more raw player. I'm still upset about Tariq Woolen. Like I was
going to mention him.
I can't believe that nobody took him, and they just let the Seahawks walk into that. Like this man was like the most athletic corner we've ever seen, and teams let him slide to day 3. I just don't get it. Like what? Like his tape wasn't even that bad. I mean, it's not like it was great tape, but like it's not like this was a disastrous player. So, man, just let the Seahawks.
And the Seahawks have been slumping in drafts the past few years. I know they had their magical run from 2012 to 2014, but you look at the past few years, Seattle. Oh no, those draft classes have been rough. So, they hit a home run this last one.
Yeah, but there's certainly some guys out there in free agency you could consider, like David Long from the Titans. I know has the connection. He's going to be out there. Drew Tranquil of the Chargers.
I can't see Mike Vrabel letting him out the door.
No, I don't.
Like I feel like David Long. Like you watch that Titans team, he's like the heart and soul of that team.
He is. Yeah. But Drew Tranquil, we just saw against the Chargers. He kicked the Falcons' ass. So I would.
That's not saying much, man. Man,
he's been good. He's been really good, though. Yeah.
He has. You think so?
He's the only Chargers linebacker that has played worth a damn. I think he actually has like a really high PFF grade, but that whole team is a disaster.
Like playing worth a damn for the Chargers that's a very low bar.
That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's actually good. He is
Okay.
actually good.
All
So,
right, I got to watch more. Hey, I can watch them
yeah.
tonight because I
Yeah,
don't know. Like
you don't have to, but we got a while for draft takes now. This win, delayed the mock draft by a week because I was going to be a
wow.
mock draft this week otherwise.
Oh man, you were gonna give a happy Thanksgiving meal to the people in
I
your
know,
draft team.
right? So I mean, we're still going to talk about draft stuff, but the mock draft doesn't. The next loss, we get a mock draft. Okay, guys.
Oh man,
yeah.
bye week's coming up. You
Yep.
have some time. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, if they don't lose before the bye week, I'll definitely do it during the bye week. I'll probably do one during the bye week no matter what, just because we need content. But
Oh, AJ Terrell didn't really get tested. I know he had the holding call, but I think that's just more of Justin Fields holding onto the ball
yeah,
for
no, that
8
was like,
seconds.
yeah.
It's hard to really assess Terrell's performance just because he wasn't really targeted.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't really see him much. I don't think he played all the snaps.
Oh, well, interesting. Okay.
I'm not entirely sure. I would have to look at the snap counts, which I don't think we have yet. But
Yeah.
I
You-
feel like
you
he
might be
wasn't
right,
out there
though.
every play. Yeah, so and this
Because-
was a good team to like work him back slowly against because they just don't throw the ball. But,
Exactly.
yeah.
Because that touchdown where D. Alford just got caught out, really well run rubber out concept, but like it was him, Darren Hall was in there, and I wanted to assume he was either Oliver or maybe Terrell, but like if D. Alford was on the field, and I don't think there were 4 corners out there, maybe that was one of those plays where Terrell was on the field because Alford clearly got caught out, which led to a touchdown.
Yeah. Oh man, this is potentially big draft news here. Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker tore his ACL against South Carolina yesterday, so that's a huge thing for his because he's a senior and was going to potentially he was flirting with the first round. He was, so definitely feel for him, and it's crushing. But yeah.
Any more takeaways? I'm trying to see what else could we hit on that. O-line played well, I thought, which was encouraging.
Yeah, the pass.
I thought they got whooped
pro
against Carolina.
Oh,
I know
God, yeah,
we're trying not to talk about the Carolina game too much, but even Lindstrom, man, Derek Brown just
he wrecked everyone. So that's part of the reason I wanted them to trade for Derek Brown, just to get him off the Panthers for the other, like just so you don't have to deal with him anymore. Yeah, but no, the Panthers wisely held on to him.
I know the Bears in the trenches. They're very limited. Like that's a rebuilding team in Chicago, but it's just good to see the Falcons in the trenches actually impose their will and make things happen.
Yeah, I mean the Bears are a very bad pass rush, no question about it. They're as bad as the Falcons, probably worse after this game. Actually,
yeah, I would say probably worse.
Yeah, so that definitely is you probably don't want to put too much stock in the pass pro holding up in this one, but it was good. Like they did a good job. And I do think that the offensive line, the run blocking was better. Still not great, but better. And they have to find a way to get that run blocking back on track because they ain't winning shit without the run blocking.
I mean,
hitting. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it was good. I think that was a positive. And yeah, I mean, I think overall the offense was better in this one. We talked about Mariota's game, and we talked about the running backs and the offensive line, and it's just the passing game is so limited. It's like Drake London catches like one pass and it's the touchdown, and it's like, man, there's just no passing attempts in this offense. It's just really.
Poor guy had 3 targets.
Yeah. And it's just like that's part of the reason we talk about Ritter, and not necessarily because of Mariota every week. It's like there's no way this was the plan when they drafted Kyle Pitts and Drake London back to back. Is like, yeah, we're gonna throw less than 20 passes a game to our, we're gonna target our two biggest investments. We're gonna like target 2 to 3 times a game. That is not the long-term plan here, guys. So if you think that it is, and you think that this is just an incompetent front office, like watching the season this year, like I don't blame you for thinking that, but it's not the plan. Like this is a limited one season. We're gonna try to win some games right now. And, all this stuff this season. This is not the plan. The plan is to get someone who could throw the football to distribute it to these guys. And I don't think this is ever going to be like a Kansas City level passing volume attack. Like, I think they probably want the quarterback throwing like right now they're averaging less than 20 attempts. I think they want to be averaging closer to 30 in this offense. But,
more balance. I think ultimately Arthur Smith wants a balance offense. Like I think he's always preached about it. It's just given the current state of the team, he can't really be balanced right now. So
Yeah.
yeah, it just more ways to see. I think also a team, you just want to see them do more damage with play action. Like one of the best things watching those Tennessee teams is, of course, look, we love Derrick Henry and AJ Brown, but like, I just remember Tennessee just getting chunk plays off play action.
Yeah. And that's what he wants. Yeah.
Yeah. And like even today, like Mariota could have hit Zacchaeus on a deep corner, but he just held the ball for too long. Like I remember the replay just showed Zacchaeus clearly had enough space, and just Mario just did not release the ball. So it's just this point, man, it's just take what you can get with this offense and see what happens in 2023.
Yep.
It's like we can't really even assess Mario anymore because we just know what he is. Like of course, we're going to analyze the game, we're going to give our assessments of it, but like long-term outlook, it's just not there because we just know he's not the answer. Like it's you just watch every week. It's just like a true team, like a team that has real playoff aspirations. Because let's be clear, like if they were in the NFC South, the Falcons would not be in a playoff hunt. We know this. So I just think right now they're just trying to develop young talent to see what they got for the long term. But no, this is definitely not a sustainable model. And unfortunately, there are big plays that are being left on the table. You saw it today.
Yeah, and despite the win today, which like it was fine, like it was a good team win and all this. Like I don't feel any differently about this team making the playoffs, to be honest. Like I do think that like this is a really uphill battle still to make the playoffs. I love that they got the W.
Game.
Yeah, like I love W's. Like I'm not gonna ever turn down big dubs, but I mean we talked about it like I talked about in the game preview. It's like we needed a win sprinkled in here and there, else it gets really dark in terms of coverage. Like it just gets depressing around here, and I'm glad they got the dub, and they needed to show they could beat teams like the Bears. I mean, like that's important, right?
And just winning one possession games, like for a young defense like that stop is huge for their confidence. Same way it was against Cleveland. Like, okay, the quarterback made a mistake, but still, like they got Fields riled. Okay, he was injured, but they forced hit Montgomery. Not hit him, but like. What am I trying to say here? Yeah, like he clearly overthrew Montgomery, which forced the turnover. Like these are good stops for a young defense because like there have been games, the Bengals game example where they just got completely torpedoed, and now just like you gotta get these small wins here and there. Like Richie Grant getting game securing interception against Seattle. Like for these young safeties, get those turnovers, it's huge because for years now we've seen the Falcons struggle to get interceptions. So it's these moments you never know what could do as a morale booster. And you hope, like, just going forward with these young players, they just learn how to close out games. Like, these are the types of moments. So, like Tyler Algier, for instance, he will hopefully learn after this great run. Gotta stay in balance.
Yeah. I mean, it's in that situation, it really didn't matter. So, like,
very valid point.
Yeah, you're absolutely right though. Like, in like most situations at that point, you would not want to run out of bounds. I guess I find it hard to criticize because it's like, well, at that point, after you've gotten the first down, the only way you're losing this game now is that if you fumble. So it's like, I would rather you just get out of bounds and not risk the fumble, at that point. But yeah, I mean, you need to be very careful about that. Certainly, we've seen plays, by running backs to like that have lost the Falcons games before. Todd Gurley, Yep. But that's a memorable one.
I know that play was rough, but oh my god, we've been talking about some disturbingly all-time collapses. That the defensive performance in that loss against Detroit.
Yeah,
God, man. But
I mean, it's
we're
like
not trying to get back down.
The fact that like you scored a touchdown too quickly lost you the game. That's 100% of the defense. I mean, it's like, yes, like please go down early, Gurley, but still, like.
And we've also like just watching football these years how crucial situational football is. So that's why you just want to see the fundamentals done properly because look, it loses teams games. So I just think that's probably the biggest takeaway from this game. Falcons played relatively good fundamental football outside of 2 careless fumbles from 2 players that are productive and you could depend upon. So you just hope those are blips rather than anything else. It's like Cordarrelle Patterson, Avery Williams. These guys have been making plays all year long. So it's nothing you don't get too riled about. It's just unfortunate mishaps. But it wasn't like players say like it wasn't like Drew Dahlman blowing another block or Darren Hall. I know he had his downs in this game, but it's not like Darren Hall made plays that Ian Lau, long plays that could have completely changed the game. And so it's just players have been struggling. I felt like they stepped up, particularly Drew Dahlman, who, look, I'm not gonna try not to mention Carolina game, but I thought Drew Dahlman, all things considered, had a decent game, which he needed just for
It was
his
better
confidence.
today.
Yeah,
It was better today. But yeah, honestly, like I think the biggest need on offense right now is center, which is funny. But people in the chat mentioned Peter Skoronski. He's playing left tackle right now for Northwestern. But a lot of people don't know Peter Skoronski was recruited as a center. And played center all throughout high school. Was a really good center. So
I got that name in my mind thanks to you.
Yep. And hey, if they're picking like 19, 20, something like that, that's the spot where you maybe consider taking the best center in the draft, and maybe it's Skoronski, or maybe it's my boy, the most offensive line named player of all time, John Michael Schmitz.
There we go.
That's a Hall of Fame offensive line name right there.
It worked for the Cowboys with Travis Frederick. I will say that. Everyone wants to say, "Oh, take a center in the first round." Really?
Yep.
It worked for them. And then look at the Chiefs in the second round getting.
Yep. Oh God, yeah. Don't get me started on that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. See,
yeah.
Man, we're bringing about very unfortunate.
Yeah. No, like I was the biggest Creed Humphrey. Yeah, I was the biggest Creed Humphrey man. So yeah.
So you were big on Tariq Woolen and Creed Humphrey.
Yeah, I was much bigger on Creed Humphrey, to be fair. I was much bigger on Creed Humphrey. So I won't take too much credit for Tariq Woolen. I did definitely think he was going to go like second round. But, Creed Humphrey, I was like trumpeting and taking in all my mock drafts. Tariq Woolen I took like a couple times when he fell out of the first round. So, But yeah, I'm not alone. I know for a fact there were Falcons staff that were big on Creed Humphrey.
Eric Robinson?
Yeah. No, like actual Falcons team staff.
Okay.
I'm not gonna name any names. Nothing going on. But there were definitely some members of the Falcons staff that were big Creed Humphrey fans. So I'm not upset with who they did take. But Creed Humphrey is great. So big man. Yeah. We get to
more questions.
I got one from Jason Gaines here. Thank you so much, Jason. He says, I'll take this win, but the defense had no business letting Fields scramble on that 3rd and long on the game-tying drive. Fields shouldn't have gotten that pass off for a first down, but at least the defense managed to get 4 sacks today. Also, turnstile Jalen Mayfield can stay on IR. Man, Jalen Mayfield's out here catching strays. He didn't even play.
Look, I'm responsible for this. I'm sorry. All right.
Jalen Mayfield's just out here. He's finally worked his way back. I'm sure this man's been rehabbing extremely hard. He's been out here trying, and then just fans are just slandering this man's name. He hasn't even played this year. So
I think it was that Josh Kendall tweet talking about Mayfield's coming back. I think that's what triggered the
probably. Yeah, everyone's like, oh, he could start on Sunday.
Oh,
so that would have been something.
I don't know if you saw those Jonathan Allen clips against Houston today, but man, Jalen Mayfield's got to block that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Keep Desert Ritter. Let's have him on the bench another week.
Yep, but we for those of you that are big on the Falcons' chances of making the playoffs, this win was absolutely crucial. Next week, just as crucial. The week after, absolutely just as crucial. And then you got a game against the Saints, which probably also crucial. But I think it's I think you could probably afford 2 losses in the last 4 games. One of them can't be against the Bucs, though. You probably have to win that Bucs game, but you could probably afford to lose 2 of the Saints, the Cardinals, and the Ravens, and you probably want to chalk up that Ravens one as an L just to be safe.
Don't
that's
lose
a tough.
Cardinals.
That's gonna be. But the Cardinals, it's late season Cardinals, so late season Cardinals are awful. So that gives me hope there. And then I feel like they need to get that revenge W against the Saints. So
yeah, agreed.
They should have won that. In
I agree on
one.
everything. Yeah.
But
Could you imagine if we covered the Cardinals? Oh man, it'd be miserable. Even the wins are enjoyable. I watched the Cardinals highlights. It's painful.
Yeah. It's tough, and it's that their defense is really funny because it's actually a really good fantasy defense because they just get takeaways and sacks, but they give up points, but it's they get takeaways and sacks. That's all that matters for fantasy defense. So, I've been starting them every week.
Classic coordinators. Vance Joseph, great coordinator, not good coach.
Yeah,
but you give him his respect.
Yeah. No, I mean that's there's nothing wrong with that. I think Dan Quinn, same thing. Great coordinator, not a great head coach, and it's maybe you just it's okay to just be really good at not the highest position. It's really okay. How many great defensive coordinators are even out there? There's not that many. So maybe people should just be satisfied with being great at the second most important thing instead of being mediocre at the most important thing. maybe people should just appreciate what they have more. I don't know.
Very well said, but I will say 2023 Dan Quinn, be on the lookout.
Yeah.
Coming.
Well, he's going to be a head coach. Like, don't get me
I
wrong,
don't know
but I'm just saying.
he's coming.
Yeah,
maybe
it's
Arizona.
coming. Yeah, maybe Arizona. Yeah, God. Yep. But I mean, I want nothing but the best for Dan. He's a super nice guy. Definitely enjoyed personally having him in Atlanta.
Same here.
On the football field, less enjoyment, especially late. But
yeah, look, things went awry, but nevertheless, Dan Quinn will always be the man in my heart. And even though I know Dallas is not a particularly fun team to root for, I mean, personnel-wise, it's just reputation-wise, who's gonna like the Cowboys. But it's cool seeing him do his thing. And,
yeah.
Who knows if they win division?
Hey.
Like I said, the Falcons win division, we will probably get a reunion.
Yeah, that's true. So man, I just like I'm just not gonna believe it until we see it. If they win all 3 of these games, like they won this first one, so that step 1 complete, step 2 beat the Commanders, step 3 beat the Steelers. And if they beat the Commanders, I think you probably feel pretty good about the Steelers game because that team is going nowhere fast. But if they do win out and they have that win and they finally get the winning record that they've been chasing for like 5 years now, then I will say, okay, I believe they can make the playoffs. But until they get there, I'm just not gonna believe it. I'm sorry, like I'm not in on the playoffs until they prove it at this point. So,
and you know what else you could do? You could finally hit the publish button.
There you go. I've been waiting. So yeah, on that Falcons finally get to 500 article that's been sitting in drafts for like 6 years now. So I'm gonna have to dust it off. Probably have to update all the players that are involved in it from the last time. But
erase Wes Schweitzer.
Yes, Wes Schweitzer, come home. By the way, who knew that the best offensive lineman that we would let leave the building was actually Wes Schweitzer? So that's crazy.
I can't believe that was a sentence, but you're right.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad, but all right, guys. We appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. Everyone hanging out for the post-game show. Thank you all for enduring this team with us and enjoy. We're definitely here to enjoy the dubs when they come, no matter where they come. No dub is too small for this team. Maybe if you're an Eagles fan or something and you're like, oh, we barely beat the Colts, we can't even enjoy this win. Like that's fine. With the Falcons, you got to savor every dub, and we're gonna continue to do that here on this show. Alan Strk, my co-host tonight. He's at Alan Strk on Twitter. Alan, anything you'd like to plug before we take off?
No, I'll just be busy writing this week. Definitely have a few article things in mind, and probably will bring back a roundtable either this week or next week. So just, things are busy on the writing front. I know Thanksgiving's coming. Wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, but we got to stay active. It is football season.
Yep. We'll definitely have plenty of content next week. We'll probably be quiet on Thursday, of course. But, we'll have stuff coming. Don't worry about that. And, yeah, guys, definitely check that stuff out. You can follow me on Twitter for as long as this hell site continues to function, at Falcoholic Kevin.
Please keep this line up. I love this line.
Yeah,
I'm going to just keep this in my mind.
And, I will have stuff coming all this week. And we'll have another pod this week early, and then we'll have the game preview that'll be coming out later in the week, and we'll be moving on to the Commanders game, which again we're in a must-win situation. So we'll just hope that keeps rolling this week. But guys, everyone, appreciate you. Like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Those numbers both really help us out. And check out the Patreon if you haven't checked that out yet. It's patreon.com/Falcoholic Subscribe for that sweet exclusive content and ad-free early access versions of the podcast episodes. So if you're into the podcast, if you're an audio listener, big benefits for you there. But yeah, guys, until next time here on the Falcoholic Live, enjoy the rest of your football Sunday. We will see you early in the week on the next episode. Until then, guys, have a great night.